Welcome back to Autism Live. Our very special guest today is Vince Redmond. He is a licensed marriage and family therapist, but a licensed marriage and family therapist who's had decades of experience working in the field of ABA with autism specifically. So he is uniquely qualified to answer our questions today that are of a specific nature, and you guys can be writing in questions too. We're really focusing today on family issues around the holidays and mostly around Thanksgiving. So our next question, I promised you the mother-in-law question. How do I deal with my mother-in-law and the way she scolds my son? We have explained attention-seeking behavior to her. She still insists on giving him a lecture whenever he does something she thinks is wrong. I keep telling her she's giving him attention. It falls on deaf ears. She is coming for the week of Thanksgiving. I keep thinking how much regression we are going to have. Help. So what advice when you can't teach the ABA to the mother-in-law, Vince?
Maybe have someone else do it.
Oh,
right? Maybe have the therapist. You maybe have therapy at home that week where grandma can observe, or grandma or mother-in-law can observe. Maybe have them attend a clinic meeting. Maybe have arrange a supervisor observation during the time that she's around. Use the resources that you have around to maybe present the information in a different way. Present it from a professional's point of view, right? When it's coming from family, sometimes we just don't listen, right? Especially when it's an older relative. They feel that they might know more, or, the old school way is the way things need to be addressed. But by doing it by a professional, by someone who's an expert in the field, maybe that will open their eyes to a different approach on how to deal with things. Maybe they'll understand the negative attention cycle that happens when a child is acting out for attention, and understand how to use an intervention. A lot of times they just don't know what to do. And if we give them exactly what intervention to do, sometimes it can be can be very successful. So my advice, the first thing would be, is to work with your ABA team and see if you can get other professionals there the week that your mother-in-law is there, so that they can present the information for you.
I love this, Vince. And this goes back to what I was talking about before. So the holidays are upon us, and you've got people coming into town, and a lot of times we think, oh, life is going to be so complicated, and we have to pick people up from the airport, and we got stuff that we have to go do. I just need to cancel therapy. And then what happens is that your in-laws come into town, you're running around doing all these places, your child is getting less therapy, your in-laws don't see how the therapy benefits, and so they're saying, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. And it creates this environment in which they see that you didn't prioritize the therapy, so they automatically think, okay, well, obviously it's something that we can put on hold, and it just feeds itself, right? When in fact, if you were to do what Vince just said, not cancel therapy, maybe ask if therapy can happen in the home and have grandma there, or go shopping to the grocery store with grandma with the therapist and say, we're going to meet you at the Safeway, right? And we're going to go through. Then grandma gets to see how the child behaves with the therapist. So she starts to go, oh, well, I see how important you're making this. This is a priority. You don't cancel therapy even when I come to town. But then grandma starts to learn, and if you can say to your team ahead of time, and can you please show grandma how to do, X, Y, and Z, not when grandma's there, but have the discussion before, say, so if you see her starting to scold him, can you please address it? You'd be hitting it out of the park. This is brilliant advice, Vince.
I had one family that I worked with many, many years ago where we literally planned, it was almost contrived, what programs we were going to do with the extended family that was present, not necessarily doing it with them, but doing it in front of them, doing it around them. So that entire week was pre-planned so that we hit all the high behaviors, all the things, in regards to the child using their language. And it turned out to be, by the end of that trip, grandma was grandma, I believe. She was 100%. She was the biggest proponent now for ABA, because not only she saw the success of what we were doing, but I think she understood it now. It wasn't just something, just ABA and all these, initials of treatments that they don't understand. She actually understood what we were doing, and that comforted her. That gave her more confidence that what we were doing is actually going to show positive results. And from that point forward, she was all on board.
Yeah, you get to buy in. I have to say, I tell the story all the time about how I told my mother she couldn't come and visit for the first 6 months that we were doing ABA. And then I finally told her that she could come, but I had a talk with her after I picked her up from the airport, and I said, here's the thing, you're going to see some things and you're not going to like them and you're not going to understand them, and I don't have the bandwidth for that, Mom. And this was my mom. I couldn't have said this to a mother-in-law, but I said, Mom, I don't have the bandwidth for that. I want you to know we're all in on this. So I'm going to ask you to give us your support or your silence. If you see something you don't like, I'm just going to ask you to be silent about it because I don't have the bandwidth, Mom, right? And oh, this did not go over well, right? But then we were in this teeny tiny condo, and I had a baby monitor. I had a couple of them set up in the living room. They would do therapy. So my mother and I had to go sit in the bedroom. And my mother was a knitter, and she drank coffee, by the potload. And she would say, well, I'm going to go get another cup of coffee. She was sitting there knitting, and I was working. We were watching the monitor. And she would say, I'm going to go get another cup of coffee. I said, you can't. The next break is at this time, and what? This is terrible. You're like a prisoner in your own home. And I was like, just watch the monitor, Mom. And the first day they were doing things with him, and she was like, this makes no sense. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my entire life. This is stupid. And I was like, how's that support or silence thing working for you? Right? It was not going well. But I said, I just kept saying, just watch, Mom, watch, because you're only seeing 5 minutes of it. Watch the arc of it. So they started on Monday, and they were teaching him characteristics of things and features of things. And she was like, this is that you're never going to get anywhere with this. This is, craziness. Right. And by the end of the week, the therapist put a Fisher-Price statue of a bird in front of him, and they said, Jem, what is it? And he said, it's a bird, and a bird has wings, and a bird has a beak, and a bird can fly. And the therapist was like, yeah. And my mother stood up in the bedroom and was screaming and crying and celebrating. And she was like, that's the most amazing thing. I watched them teach that. I didn't think that was going to work, but oh my gosh. And she was like, this should be on the national news. This should be every night on the news because this is amazing if people only understood. And she was like, I want to learn how to do this. This is working. So that was the difference from Monday to Friday, but I just kept making her watch it. And then my mother was the biggest proponent. She was like, what do you need? How can I support? And if somebody would say something, she would go, that's not how we deal with this. And it was such a turnaround. So I love your advice, Vince.
Make them a part of it.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Hey, thanks for watching Autism Live. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.